So hello and welcome to Cinema Eclectica, part of the Geek Show podcast network. This week, like a room full of incontinent men, we are going full streaming with a list of the best new films that have been released during lockdown on Netflix and Hulu and Mubi and anything else that streams video. I'm Graham, and this week I've been joined by Mick.
Hello.
And Rob.
How do?
Yes.
I don't know why I said that, by the way. I'm sorry.
Threw me for a second, but I think we're good now.
Quite.
So yes, with it being our streaming special, we have a streaming-themed question of the week, which is simply, what's your favourite Netflix original film? On your actual Facebook, Ian Payne responds with, not necessarily favourites, but here's a few that are worth a watch and seem to miss the hype of the likes of Roma and The Irishman, The Discovery, Gerard's Game, The Futile and Stupid Gesture, and Okja.
He's basically ticked all the boxes for all of the sort of the big critically acclaimed ones, hasn't he? Basically,
yeah. It's good to get that out of the way first, so everything that follows will be repetitive. Speaking of Roma and The Irishman, Oliver Lewis says, it's probably Roma at the end of the day. It really worked for me when we eventually saw it. I have turned quite negative on Netflix, but I suppose the occasional great film like this and The Irishman, which I did like a whole load too, make it somewhat worthwhile. I don't know if it should count, and it is more seriously flawed, but very happy to have seen The Other Side of the Wind.
I wasn't won over by Roma, I'll be perfectly honest.
I am saving my thoughts on Roma for when we talk about our own Netflix favourites. No spoilers, guys, okay?
So clearly, it's the Ridiculous Six that you're going to talk about.
Yes. Mark Lawrence says, does Annihilation count? Annihilation absolutely counts, yeah.
Yeah, they got a theatrical release of that in America, but we were subject to a Netflix only release,
which is a pain because you want to see that thing on the big screen, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, some of the digital effects might look a bit crunky on the big screen, but other parts of it, like the bear scene, that would have been incredible in a cinema.
Yes, absolutely. Alstorva says, unless Annihilation counts, which it does count, guys. Were you not listening to me a second ago? Unless Annihilation counts, then the only one I think I've watched is Six Underground, and while I enjoyed it, it would be a stretch to put it on a list of best things. Very silly.
I must admit, I haven't actually got a favourite Netflix one, or indeed any other streaming service original film. I don't know why. I'll probably start watching some in about 5 years' time. It took me that long to get around to buying an iPod.
Yes.
I had an iRiver. I only found that because I looked at me purchase history on Amazon and thought, iRiver, whoa, that's going back.
What's that? Is it just like crying?
Yeah. It's just got Elliott Smith songs on it.
Yeah, it's the modern replacement for crying. It's a little pocket-sized device that you charge up and it does your crying for you.
Yes.
And it condenses your crying into a handy portable format.
It shuffles the order of tears.
That's right, yeah.
Which I think was a Dario Argento film.
Probably.
Finally, Ashley Lane says, I've only seen one, The Open House. It's so terrible that it's not my favourite, despite being on a list of one.
I'm glad it's there. Is that all answers from listeners?
That's all the listener answers, yes.
I'll go first. I have 3. 2 were lucky enough to be on my favourite of the year list.
Oh.
The earliest was Ava DuVernay. Is that how you say her name?
It is, as we discovered, yes.
Yeah. Ava DuVernay's documentary about the American justice system being a smidgest racist.
What?
The 13th.
Yes. That was very early in Netflix's original content drive, wasn't it?
Yeah, because their documentaries seem to be of an overall higher standard than their traditional features.
Yeah.
But that's excellent, you know. It's quite a dry subject matter, but she makes it come alive in a way that I don't think many could, really.
Yeah.
Two other ones go chronologically. And the next one is I Don't Feel at Home on This Planet Anymore.
Blimey, yeah. Oh, you're bringing all the memories back now.
Which,
are
I
you
never
getting
remember
the? Are you getting the feels, Graham?
Only true 2017 kids will remember I Don't Want to Live on This Planet Anymore.
Which is done by Macon Blair, who's one of the more common collaborators with the man with a name.
Jeremy Saulnier.
The man with a name, him. And it's about what it is, really. A woman, Malene Snitsky, I think, if I remember her names correctly, has her laptop stolen, and she gets embroiled in a world of all sorts of crime, including the lead singer of the Jesus Lizard, who plays someone just as skeezy and scuzzy as you'd think he'd play.
Yes.
And it's got Elijah Wood with one throwing star, just one.
That's an interesting rating system.
And it's also got one of the best sort of closing gags of a film I've seen in a long, long time. It's like the Early Man gag for you, Graham. It's just one of those amazing sight gags, which is well worth it. And the last one was also on my top 10 last year was My Name is Dolomite, which is just so much fun. It makes it's an infectious love of movie making in that, which I think can't not affect you if you like that sort of thing.
So obviously, as you said earlier, mine is Bright, because he's a cop and an orc. What the hell? Where did they get their wacky ideas? But no, actually it is Roma, which I think is fabulous and poetic, and I found completely absorbing, despite the fact that for a lot of it, it feels like nothing is happening until you get into Act 3 and you realise that there's been a hell of a lot of story structuring work going on under the surface. And I really admire that. It reminded me of Killer of Sheep, and I can't really say...
Yeah, I did check that out on your recommendation, A Killer of Sheep, and I liked it a lot.
Oh, good. It's a fabulous film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when nothing happens in movies, if you want anybody to do it, you want that guy to do it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. But I also would like to cast a bit of a spotlight on Netflix's documentary work, because last year it felt like there was a bit of a watershed moment for that, and also it transitions into what I'm going to be talking about next. So, win-win. The first one that I'm actually quite surprised you didn't mention yourself, Rob, is Behind the Curve.
Oh, yes, that's a really interesting movie and funny, but it makes you feel like an absolute ass for thinking it's funny.
Yes. Behind the Curve, in case you haven't seen it, listeners, and you should watch it because it's a very breezy watch, follows the lives of people trying to prove that the Earth is flat. There is one particular strand which is straight out of a Taika Waititi movie, where people who are trying to do experiments to prove that the Earth has no curvature keep accidentally proving that the world is round.
Yes, it's brilliant, that.
But there is a lot of pathos in it. It's more insightful than just laughing at the weirdos, and I liked that. If you want to laugh at the weirdos, Chris Smith's film Fire, about the sudden rise and spectacular fall of the Fire Festival, is absolutely hilarious.
You can make a film festival of all the Fire Festival documentaries.
Yes, call it the Fire Festival Festival.
Yes, because one on Hulu as well, wasn't there? There was a lot of them just popped up out of nowhere.
It was last decade's equivalent of the 2000s spree of Truman Capote biopics.
Oh, there was a lot of those, yeah.
There was a lot of those.
Nostalgia and that.
I'd also like to throw a quick mention for Knock Down the House, which I don't think is as brilliantly structured as the other two I've mentioned. It does have this problem where it's following 4 outsider candidates for the US Senate, and one of them is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the rest of them aren't. So you kind of know which one's going to make it if you follow politics. But it's a film that's really stuck with me, and I think is, again, really heartfelt and sincere, and I liked it a lot. So, in terms of our recent streaming watches, I watched something that just came on Netflix last Wednesday, which is Rachel Mason's film Circus of Books. This is a story, in part a family story, a story about Rachel Mason's parents, Karen and Barry, frankly adorable old Jewish couple who for 30 years have maintained their own small independent family bookstore against the pressures of corporatization and big chains moving into the neighborhood. It sounds like a Frank Capra film until you factor in what the bookshop is actually selling, which is mostly gay pornography.
What a turn.
This is, I did not realise this before it started, but the opening credits make it clear this is part of the deal Netflix have struck with Ryan Murphy, the showrunner of shows like Nip Tuck, Glee, American Horror Story, American Crime Story, American Story, American Story Time, Story. And
I don't think that last one's one of his. But he did do the American remake.
I assumed when Netflix signed Ryan Murphy that he was going to do his usual thing of running about 70 different TV shows all at the same time and maybe having enough good material to scrape together an episode and a half between them. I did not reckon with him turning into film production, and I have to admit I'm rather glad he did, because Circus of Books is a very tender film about subject matter which is on many levels quite confrontational. I mean, it does have the expected sort of scenes where Karen Mason is going through all of the old contracts she signed, and there are some absolutely choice porno film names in there. I think School of Hard Cocks was a particular favourite.
Yes.
And I think one allegation you could level at it is maybe a bit too cozy, that there is darker material in here that could maybe have been probed better if the director wasn't the daughter of the people she's talking to. I mean, in particular, Barry and Karen's marriage is slightly odd even before you get to the whole part with them being a heterosexual couple who have ran a gay pawn shop for several decades. For a start, Karen is very religious and takes the Torah very literally, and Barry is more secular. And I was curious as to whether that had caused any tension in their marriage, but it's skated over a bit. I think you could also argue that Ryan Murphy's relationship to LGBTQ material has a tendency to kind of normalize and to be inclusive and to take things into the mainstream rather than going after more difficult questions. I always think the quintessential Ryan Murphy film title is The Normal Heart. I mean, that's it. That's his ethos. You know, it's just love. It's all normal. And I think that's nice. You know, I don't think it's wrong by any means, but I think there are sort of darker questions in Circus of Books, particularly when it gets to the time when they were running this store during the AIDS crisis. And, you know, that's a harrowing time to be doing something like this. And Rachel House herself says that she remembers being a young woman and finding out that, you know, people who she'd seen sort of coming out of her parents' workplace were just dead the next weekend. And it really does, even living through these pandemic times, kind of stagger you as to how prevalent this disease got. But I found it really easy to watch and charming, and I think that whatever influence Murphy had over the production has not stifled Mason's own personal take on the material, particularly when you look at the interview she conducts with her brothers, who talk about, being aware that their parents did something that they weren't supposed to know about, but not really knowing what it is. And one of her brothers says, I was really excited when I was in the family car and I found a video cassette on the floor that had clearly come from work. And I thought, finally, I'm going to crack the code. And I hid it under my bed and I waited and waited until everyone had gone out. And then I ran downstairs and put it in the machine and realized it's Betamax.
Oh.
Yeah.
All the gags this one, hasn't it?
Yes. So, absolutely no way of playing it. There is a bizarre thing in the middle of it, which is that there is the material for farce in here where Barry and Karen say that, the business was getting a level of demand they couldn't meet, because bear in mind, this is the 70s, the 80s, it's long before you have dedicated bookshops like famously London's Gay's the Word, which is celebrated in the film Pride, far before you had Waterstone sections with actual LGBT sections or anything like that. So they were getting a remarkable amount of interest, but didn't have the product to meet it, even when they signed a deal with Larry Flint, the famous porn baron who's interviewed in this film. So they actually ended up producing gay hardcore films themselves. And maybe that doesn't sound as funny as it does when you look at them, because they are the sort of nicest, smiliest old couple you can imagine. And they're talking about this, and it's just bewildering to even think about it. It does have a lengthy interview with Jeff Stryker, one of the first really big gay porn stars, and it had never really occurred to me before the level with which Stryker, despite being involved with gay hardcore rather than straight hardcore, Stryker absolutely was Mark Wahlberg's character from Boogie Nights. There is even a lengthy, terrible soft rock song that he's seen singing at one point, and you think, oh God, it's the Feel the Heat scene from Boogie Nights. It's just, as the title suggests, an absolute circus, a really carnivalesque film, and that does address, surprisingly sincerely, the question of how you raise a family when something like this is your work. I mean, Karen and Barry didn't just have to worry about not letting their children see anything inappropriate in the shop. They actually successfully kept it secret from their kids that they were put on trial by the Reagan administration for dealing in obscene material. Apparently that just passed all the kids by. And, again, it is so surreal to look at the world as it is now and think that sending a couple of grossy porn VHSs or Betamaxes from California to Pennsylvania was once enough to get the weight of the FBI on your neck, that people in FBI jackets made an armed raid on this place.
You see, but if it's kids that only care if it's your uncle and he works at Nintendo, otherwise they're just not interested.
Yeah, I suppose. Yes.
Everybody's uncle that worked at Nintendo, but gay porn, nah, don't care.
I think what does come through to it, and what might have attracted Murphy to this story, is how in a lot of ways the Masons were a pretty everyday family. I mean, Rachel Mason says that one of the ironies of growing up, which she didn't appreciate until later, was that she had the standard sort of teenage feeling that when she went off to college, she was mixing with a really hip bohemian crowd, and she just thought, oh, my parents are so square, they'll never understand this is how I want to live. And it's like, No, they're probably a bit too busy making gay hardcore porn films to care that much, to be honest. So yeah, despite my slight misgivings, it is a really charming and entertaining film, and I think it's worth watching just to spend an hour and 26 minutes with Karen and Barry Mason, who were just incredibly delightful company. And that's Circus of Books, which came out on Netflix last week.
Compelling. They're not very good at promoting themselves, Netflix, I found, because I'm on it most days because I don't have TV. I'm that sort of person.
Yeah.
And I've not seen a single mention of it at all.
Oh, God, yeah. If they've got anything slightly out of the ordinary, they bury it. And I went on their official Twitter account and they had like a chain of things that they were releasing this month, and this was like film number 968. And of course, all of the replies were, "Oh, when's Stranger Things Series 98 coming out?" So yeah,
it's really weird. I mean, if they were financing these movies via sort of vouchers at the back of the comic book issue, I'd say, yeah, fair enough. You're not putting any money in it, so why bother promoting it? But no, they're putting millions of pounds into producing these things, and they're basically saying, hey, we've got some stuff, it's over there, you might find it, who cares?
Ironically, I think they've made this into the modern day equivalent of a film that you get passed under the counter at your local newsagents. You have to have the special knowledge to find Circus of Books. So if you like what you hear, please give us a rating on whatever podcast provider you happen to be listening on. It helps with our visibility and it just makes us feel nice and warm and fuzzy. Or if you want to go even further than fuzzy, you can donate some money to us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Geek Show. Look out for that. We are making some new announcements about Patreon rewards coming soon. We are on Twitter, just search for TGS_The Geek Show, and on Facebook under The Geek Show.
Unsure if your Spider-Man is amazing or spectacular? Infinitely confused by Crisis on Infinite Earths? Or does the mere thought of X-Men continuity make you tremble? Then 4Panel is the podcast for you. Join me, Andrew, and my co-host Robin Mick as we guide you through the weird and wild world of comics. We'll talk about the secret origins of your favourite characters, delve into the craziest events of comics past, and review the hottest new graphic novels that you might have missed. That's 4Panel, a part of the Geek Show Podcast Network, available wherever podcasts are found.
Hello, I'm Brian Talbot. I've been writing and drawing comics and graphic novels for about 40 years now, and welcome to the Geek Show.
If you do go onto our website, you can find some exclusive reviews of movies that we don't cover on the show, such as Rob's own review of Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountain.
It's the movie that inspired John Carpenter to make Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I did not know that.
Which is one thing. But if any sentence is going to make you compelled to watch a movie which, let's be fair, makes no sense whatsoever, this sentence will sell you on it. You ready?
Yeah.
Samo fights a demon with his mustache.
Wow!
There we go.
Which Western actor could do that? I'm thinking Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes, especially in his There Will Be Blood guys.
Yes. So we've got that. We've got a fair bit of John Ford stuff. We've got Ewan's review of Rio Grande, which is out on Eureka Masters of Cinema. And coming probably by the time you've read this, I've also reviewed Indicator's John Ford at Columbia box set, which has all manner of genres that you never knew the King of the Western tackled. John Ford does screwball comedy. John Ford does political thrillers. John Ford does light Ealing-esque comedy set in London. Really? Yes,
what?
Apparently. Yes. It's staggering, but it happened.
Bewildered is the word I'm looking for.
Yes. So that's coming soon. And we've got Mark Cunliffe's review of another Indicator title, The Strange One, directed by Jack Garfian.
It's a big old deep dive on that one. As I mentioned on a previous show, he really does go in depth on these things.
Mark's level of knowledge of particularly British cinema history, makes me feel like a total fraud a lot of the time.
This is sort of behind the curtain a little bit, but a traditional review, let's say, is about 700 to 1,200 words. He gets about 2,000 words in on each of these movies that he covers, so he's really getting into the history of these things.
Completely, yes. But now we've got some more reviews of new titles on streaming for you, and I believe, Rob, you're up next.
Yes. I've got one which was initially going to have a cinema release, but because of things happening, it was released early on VOD, especially in America. It's not had so much over here. But it is Larkin Finnegan's Vivarium. And just before I start, don't trust a person whose name is two surnames. It's just on me book. But in this, it stars Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg as their start. They're both working in a school. They're partners, and they're looking to move in together and find that dream home, as they all do, or just a home, maybe. Either or. But when they're out and about, they go to a new pop-up estate agent in town. Very peculiar man serves them. Something slightly Twin Peaksian in the sort of very distant but very formal sort of way.
I was going to say, it sounds quite Lynchian so far.
Yes, I will loop back around to that. But he says, "Oh, follow me. I'll lead you to this new complex of houses, a bit of suburban estate. Get there, house after house, row after row. All of these houses look exactly the same. They have a look around. It's the new show homes. They've got no soul, no spirit to them. So they think, okay, we've humoured the estate agent. We've had enough of a look. We'll leave now."
Yeah.
So jumping in their car, they drive off, looking for the exit of this estate. But it seems to be sort of a live place, this estate, whereas you can't exit it. It seems like the exit is forever moving and it's reorganising the place. Later on in the movie, things are actually redeveloping. Like, you can burn things down, but they will come back.
Right.
So it's like a real twist of the turn. But what number house they arrive at, I have to feel is a reference.
Yeah.
Because it all happens inside number 9.
No way!
Yeah. If that's not a reference, if that is not a reference, well then, I don't know what's happening. But once there, they're pretty annoyed. So they get given a choice. Raise this child and we'll let you go.
Right. And
this child, it starts off as a baby and then about a week later, it's 5 or 6. And then it eventually becomes, it's like an accelerated rate of growth.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly weird. It gets taught about what a dog is, and he just woofs all the time in a way which sounds like he's never heard a dog woof. And the kid has this weird mannerism about him, but the voice they've used to overdub the kid isn't his. So it has this very alien trait to him.
I mean, you say it sounds weird, but that sounds basically like what I'd expect Jesse Eisenberg's kid to act like.
And he's punching above his weight, right? Jesse Eisenberg, Imogen Poots.
Yes.
Also, I find it utterly bewildering how Imogen Poots is that little girl from 28 Days Later.
Oh, God, yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that. Time is just confusing to me.
Yes.
Which is also on brand for this movie, really.
Yeah.
But it has like this nice concept of the trapped. They've got to raise this kid, but the kid isn't a kid. Most of the movie, Imogen Poots she has to mother it, basically. She has to raise it out of whatever sort of obligation. I don't know. It's not especially well discussed or talked about. And Jesse Eisenberg, he smokes and listens to reggae, so obviously I hate his character. Because he won't get into that. So he throws a cigarette on the lawn, and he has this weird little reaction. It's like stop animated, but like the grass, the turf sort of goes away, and the ground underneath it is sort of, it's not mud, it's not clay, it's something else.
Right.
So he spends most of the film digging a hole, just digging a hole, digging and digging and digging, and he digs some more.
Is it a tribute to Bernard Cribbins?
Maybe it is. I'd like to think so. But you see, the problem with this is my problem with so many. Yeah, let's just word it another way. So many short films that are expanded to feature.
Mm.
They have like this really nice idea. They know where it's going to end. They're no like big plot points. But it's jumping from plot point A to plot point B to plot point C to conclusion.
Yeah.
They don't really know where to go with it. So for a lot of it, there's scenes of Jesse Eisenberg. Guess what? Digging.
Digging a hole. Yeah.
Yeah, digging.
Is it a hole in the ground?
It's a hole in the ground, yeah. And also, she does some mothering, some cereal. Yeah, like cereal. And then he goes on walking trips that when the kid's an adult, he goes and does some walks. And that's it. That's it, really. But it's that sort of problem. I mean, Twilight Zone is a thing which is constantly referenced in talking about Vivarium, because it feels like it should have been an hour long. It's in the case of those, I think it's probably like more like 45 minutes if you factor in adverts. Within that sort of structure, I think it would be a lot more to the point, and get across its subtext, which isn't particularly clever. It's very, I don't like suburbia.
Yeah.
Keeping up with the sort of the bourgeoisie standards of, having a kid, having a new home and blah, 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 living what you're supposed to live.
Yeah.
And a certain generation of people, I'll say millennials, of which I am one, kind of rally against that. And this movie it's got ideas, like sort of framework of ideas and a cool ending, and well, a vaguely sort of interesting ending. And again, like I said, it just doesn't know how to get from one to the other or string them together as sort of a cohesive thing. It's been talked about as having a David Lynch flavour. I think that's doing it way too much credit.
Yeah.
For a long time, it felt like people said, "Oh, it's very Lynchian," and that seemed to be shorthand for it's weird, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's sort of like a description of a man's work. That's so vague.
Yeah.
It's like saying something is what's the other David, the one who doesn't know how to light a scene?
Fincher.
There we go. It's like saying any movie which is dark is it's Fincherian that.
I mean, at least when people say Fellini-esque, they mean something other than definitely in Italian.
Yeah. So it's given the movie way too much credit to cite David Lynch. Because I think, personally, with David Lynch, even when it's not horror, he has this innate ability to just see the characters and concepts which just crawl under your skin.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the famous one is behind a diner in Mulholland Drive.
Yes.
You're just walking behind a diner. Nothing happens. It's just walking behind a diner. But oh my word, it's one of the scariest things I've ever seen in a movie.
I honestly think there may not be a dedicated horror director who has scared me as often as David Lynch has.
I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. And in Vivarium, there's hints that they're trying for that. But I don't think they have the same level of, I don't know what word you use to describe Lynch. Weird as hell.
Yeah.
It's like a salaryman trying to tell somebody what David Lynch is while completely missing the point of what David Lynch is. I
mean, I do always have a certain soft spot for these kind of weird suburbia movies, which I think is partly generational, that they were big when I was growing up, but I have to admit it's not the toughest target in the world at this remove, is it?
No, it's not. And yeah, it just, honestly, it feels like something of, it could be an amazing episode of Inside Number 9.
Yeah.
It could be a pretty good episode of Twilight Zone, either the new one or the old one with Rod Serling. But as a 90-minute movie, it runs out of steam awfully quickly.
How would it fare as a novelty song by Bernard Cribbins?
In 3 minutes, it'd be amazing. But if it was a 7-minute song on a concept album, I think Cribbins has took a step too far.
Are you not familiar with the 12-inch disco remix?
I am not, no. But it's a director that could be something interesting there. Like, it could just be another one of these 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 gazillion indie directors that come out of nowhere and end up directing episodes of ER.
Yes.
America produces way too many of these directors, and surely they're going to have to start exhibiting some quality control sooner or later.
You'd think.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem is the horror community in America doesn't know how to say no.
Yes.
So it gets a lot of bad stuff this is far from the worst. I mean, we've seen stuff together, Mick. We've seen that movie. The one which we want to speak about. You remember it.
Puppet Master, the little strike, listeners, in case you want somebody who doesn't have the same social taboos as Rob and Mick.
You're bringing it off running back, Graham. Why would you do that?
Flashbacks.
It's far from as bad as that, but as bad as Little Strike was, at least it gives you something to talk about.
It's one way to put it, yeah.
Yes. But that's Vivarium, and you can find that out and about on VOD.
I was supposed to follow that now.
Well, you've got the one I've been looking forward to the most out of all of them.
I know.
Yes, easy work, that surely.
I mean, compared to what you've just described, this sounds quite pedestrian. Why Don't You Just Die starts with Matt Vey going round to make an impression on his girlfriend Olya's dad.
Mm-hmm. So a rom-com then?
Let me finish. Going round to make an impression on Olya's dad with a claw hammer.
Oh, wow.
That's how the film opens. So this is Why Don't You Just Die, which is the feature debut of Kirill Sokolov. It starts off, as I say, with Matt Vey approaching the door of his girlfriend dad. And the premise is that she's asked him to kill her father, who she hates because apparently he raped her when she was young.
Right.
And that's where any attempt at a simple, straightforward plot goes out the window.
Okay.
This is like Shallow Grave meets Reservoir Dogs meets Clockwork Orange
Crikey.
meets Inside Number 9.
Sold.
Yep.
It's awesome. It's some... as time progresses, and it's difficult to synopsize this without spoiling it big style.
Mm.
But basically, Matt Vey goes round to kill Andre, who is Olya's police inspector father. Olya is a struggling actress who works, well, I guess the Hollywood equivalent would be off Broadway, down into the subway, take a couple of stops, come back out, go down a side street, between two bars, down into a basement, and in the cellar behind that basement, production of Shakespeare. And she's in a Hamlet production. And it's not paying well. She also works in a bar, but because the production that she's in keeps starting late, she keeps being late for her bar job, she begs the owner not to fire her. He says, okay, in return for a hand job.
Lovely.
Yeah. And she leaves the bar. We next see him against some barrels with a bloody nose. Anyway, so when they go around, we keep cutting between Andre and Matt Vey having a big fight. They have a big punch-up, which effectively lasts for like 90% of the film. And I say punch-up, but it involves a level of stunt work that Havoc would have been proud of back in the 70s. It involves everything from the hammer to a shotgun, bits of furniture, a CRT monitor being used as a projectile weapon. All the time, Tasha, which is Andre's wife, Olya's mother, is watching on sort of nervously. Anyway, at one point, Andre shoots Matvey, and the sofa explodes, and all this money comes shooting out, like a I don't know, a demonically possessed cash machine has exploded. Meanwhile, Andre thinks he's killed Matvey and calls his mate from the police station, Yevgenich, to come and clear up the mess. You know, in that kind of, let's pretend this didn't happen.
Yeah.
We then get a flashback to a time when they worked together and they got this sleaze off of a murder in exchange for a huge amount of cash, which Yevgenich was going to use to save the life of his wife, who needed some very expensive surgery. It then turns out that Andre just stitched him up and buggered off with the money and then pretended that the parents didn't pay up.
This is way more complicated than that title makes it seem.
I know.
So many moving parts.
Well, the thing is, it's one of those, and normally, if Hollywood did this film, it'd be 3 hours long to try and bring all those threads together. But seriously, this is directed with such efficiency and so much fun.
That's really weird. I mean, my history of Russian cinema is it's slow, it's long.
Oh no, oh mate, this is an hour and 34 minutes of non-stop brutality. I mean, the gore in it is beyond belief.
Okay. I said okay in a concerning way there. I'll say it in that one. Oh, okay.
In terms of survivors, there's one, but I'm not going to spoil who it is.
Wow, that's a big body count then.
Well, it's quite a tight little cast. There's the main cast are Matvey, Andre, Olya, and Yevgenich and Tasha. They're the core cast. Everybody else are the people that you see in the flashbacks. The guy who runs the bar, the maniac who gets arrested, the cops that are there on the scene, and the co-stars in the Shakespeare play. And that's it. That is literally the cast.
Oh, that's the Shallow Grave reference there, yeah, because that's pretty.
Oh no, no.
5 people in that, I think.
There's a scene, isn't there, in Shallow Grave, where I think it's Ewan McGregor's character is seen looking under the floorboard through a peephole. There's a scene that is so it's almost a copycat shot of Matvey, but it's a dirty bath plug hole and his tongue.
Oh no.
And I'm just going to leave it there. But yeah, as you go through, you can tell that Kirill Sokolov is a director who loves cinema. He's seen a lot of very influential films, and he's taken those influences and he's done what Tarantino does, but he's done it well, in that he's adapted those influences and made them his own and presented them correctly. Yeah.
Tarantino's got better at that, but certainly at the early point of his career, I don't think he could manage that.
And so, I mean, I finished watching this the other night and I immediately pinged Graham and said, I've got a new favourite foreign language movie.
Which is not what you'd expect. I mean, Russian cinema does have that reputation, doesn't it? I mean, what was that one that you watched? The Gentle Animal, was it called?
Yeah. Which was a good film. But it was very ponderous and slow moving. There was a lot of it. But this is tightly edited. It moves at a pace. The constant chopping and changing between backstory and current story is fine. At no point do you lose where you are in the story. And you find yourself sympathising with people, and you find yourself finding the most horrific things hilariously funny. I don't know if you said, Jimmy Carr does a routine about how offensive humour can be.
Yeah.
And he defines it as being the difference between an inhaling of breath and then a laugh, or a laugh, then an inhaling of breath. And I was put in mind of that when I watched the scene where one character tries to rescue another character from their committing of suicide, only for them to succeed, but then they die because they hit their head on the mantelpiece on the way down.
Yeah, it's that sort of movie, is it? Very good. Very good.
So, absolutely recommended. I watched it on Blu-ray. How does it come to be on a streaming special? because it's available on Amazon to rent or buy. However, it's released by Arrow Releasing, and I would recommend investing in the Blu-ray because it's also got 4 of Sokolov's short films, all of which are in a similar vein, including the the first one that I watched, which was called It Could Be Worse.
So that's what he does, is it really?
Yeah. Right. And just to summarise the short film, It Could Be Worse, our hero gets told by his girlfriend that she's splitting up with him, and he goes off feeling miserable, and he wanders through the town, through the village, which is quite a rural place, ends up at the train station, which is just a small station with one platform. And he stood there waiting, and this guy comes up and he's talking to him, and he says, what's wrong with you then? And he goes, oh, me and my girlfriend, we've had a fight. And he goes, don't worry about it. These things happen. She probably wasn't worth it. Me, yesterday, I killed my wife. Anyway, I've got to go. My train's coming.
I think I'm going to like this guy.
Oh, honestly, you are going to love this. You are going to love this.
This I don't know if you saw it, but there was a movie last year which got the internet just agog with excitement. It was called One Cut of the Dead.
No.
I'm not going to spoil it, but this feels like it could be this year's just world cinema movie, like left field world cinema movie that just everybody falls in love with.
Oh, I mean, I think you've got to have a certain outlook on life to appreciate this one. I don't think anybody who watches an Anna Kendrick movie is going to love this.
Oh, throwing hair under the bus there.
Every available opportunity.
Not going to watch Trolls 2 then?
Well, I didn't watch Trolls 1, so...
That'd be a start. You wouldn't be able to miss the high-octane plot of number 2 if you didn't say number 1.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Why Don't You Just Die? Available to rent or buy on Amazon, but I'd buy the Blu-ray just for the short films that accompany it.
Okay, so if you've not noticed, listeners, we have lost the Graham internet stuff. So he's not going to be able to get back. So let's finish this show once I figure out what we're doing next week.
You can't cope with the power, can you?
Maybe not. Next week is the film of the week, which we don't get a lot of these days, is coming from Mubi, which I believe they're doing the premiere of it as well before it's released on the platform, and that is Pablo Larraín's Emma. I don't know if it's pronounced Emma. EMA would that be pronounced Emma?
I don't know, because what I got there was Pablo Larraín's interpretation or adaptation of a Jane Austen novel.
Well, I hope not. I don't know what it is. I'm interested in Pablo Larraín's movies because he's like the sort of the great hope for Chilean cinema. But, it doesn't pop up that often, does it, Chilean cinema? So it's not the sort of thing you actively follow.
No.
But I am looking forward to that. And that'll be next week on Cinema Eclectica. But until then, I have been Rob.
A disembodied voice has been Graham. And I've been Mick.
Thanks for listening.